Mara Whitfield left Nashville when the whispers became louder than the music she once loved. She told herself she was just taking a break, that silence might help her find her voice again, but deep down she knew she was running from something that had already broken her. The car ride west felt endless miles of rain-soaked highways, gas stations that smelled of old coffee, faces that looked at her but did not see her. When she finally reached the Oregon coast, the air felt heavier, colder, the kind of air that carries memories. She rented a small house at the edge of a forgotten town, a house that faced the ocean, with cracked windows and wooden floors that creaked with every breath she took. The locals said the place used to belong to a musician, a man who disappeared years ago, leaving only his studio behind. Some said he moved away, others said he never left. Mara did not ask questions, she only wanted peace. The first night, she unpacked her old microphone, the one that still carried lipstick stains from her last concert. She placed it on the table and sat in front of it. She pressed record, not to sing but to listen to what silence sounded like. The tape rolled softly. She could hear the wind outside, the slow rhythm of waves against rocks, and then faintly a sound like breath behind her. She turned. No one was there. She smiled nervously, told herself it was the machine. The next morning she played the tape again, nothing but static, but instead she heard it, a faint whisper, just one word, stay. Her hands trembled. She stopped the playback, stared at the recorder as if it could explain what she just heard. She went out that day to the town diner, a place called Marlene's. People there talked slowly, like time itself moved different. The waitress asked if she was new. Mara nodded. The waitress said, you the singer from down south? I used to see you on TV. Mara smiled politely, said not anymore. The waitress shrugged, said maybe that's good, things change, folks forget quicker than they should. That night Mara sat again in the studio. The air felt heavier. She started humming an old melody, one she used to sing before fame, before heartbreak. Her eyes closed. She felt tears pressing behind her eyelids. When she stopped recording, she played it back, and again the whisper returned, clearer. This time it said, you came back. She froze. The hair on her neck lifted. She whispered, who are you? No answer, only static. Days passed. She tried to ignore it, but the voice kept finding her in the recordings, in the silence between the rain. She started dreaming about a man she had never met, his face always blurred, his voice always calm, saying help me. One evening she found an old drawer under the studio desk. Inside were tapes covered in dust, labeled with dates years before she was even born. She played one and heard a man singing, a rough deep voice full of pain. Then at the end of the tape she heard the same whisper, the same stay. Mara began searching through local archives. She found a newspaper from 1997. Local musician found dead near cliffside. Authorities suspect foul play, case unsolved. She stared at the picture. It was the same face from her dreams, the same eyes looking right through her. She read his name, Adrian Cole. The next night, the storm came stronger. Lightning cracked across the sea. The lights in the studio flickered. She recorded again, this time speaking directly into the mic. Adrian, if you can hear me, tell me what you want. And then nothing for a long while, only the storm. But as she reached to stop the recording, the whisper came again. This time it said, find the last recording. Her breath caught, her hands shaking. She rewound the tape, but the whisper was gone, replaced by the sound of heavy breathing. Not hers. She unplugged everything, sat in the dark, trying to calm herself. By morning she was ready to leave, but when she stepped outside, a car was parked across the street, black tinted windows, engine off. She could feel eyes watching her. The mail slot creaked, a letter slid through. She picked it up, no return. Mara stood frozen, the phone still pressed against her ear, the whisper still echoing in her mind. She dropped the receiver. It swung back and forth, hitting the wall with a dull sound. The silence that followed felt heavier than noise. She sat on the floor, her heart beating fast, trying to remember every detail of the night before the whisper, the storm, the face in the photo. She walked back to the studio. Sunlight spilled through the cracked window. She half expected the room to feel different, but it looked the same, dust floating in the air like tiny ghosts. She placed the photo on the desk beside the microphone, staring at her own reflection in the glass, wondering if maybe the whisper was her own voice recorded and warped by the old tape. But deep down she knew it wasn't hers. She tried to call the landlord to ask about the man in the photo, but no one answered. She checked the number again. The line stayed dead. After a moment she decided to go back to the diner, the only place where people talked. There was a man at the counter, this time reading a local newspaper. She sat 2 stools away. He glanced at her, nodded. She asked if he knew who Adrian Cole was. The man folded his paper slowly, said, "Why are you asking about him?" Mara hesitated, said, "I found something of his in the house." The man frowned, said, "You renting his place, huh?" He disappeared right after his last song. Police called it an accident. Folks here never believed it. She asked, "Do you think he was murdered?" The man looked around, lowered his voice, said, "I think he found something he shouldn't have." The next morning she went to the town library. The librarian, an old woman with sharp eyes, recognized Adrian's name right away, said he used to come here almost every day researching something, old town records, land deeds, things no one cared about anymore. She said he believed someone had buried something near the cliffs. Mara asked what kind of something. The woman smiled thinly, said something worth dying for. Later that evening Mara drove to the cliffs, the wind strong, her hair whipping across her face. She stood near the edge looking down at the rocks below, waves crashing. She saw something glint near a broken fence. She climbed down a few feet. There, half buried under dirt, was a metal box. She pulled it out, her hands shaking, opened it. Inside were more tapes, each labeled with numbers and one word: confession. Back home she played the first one. The voice was Adrian. He sounded tired, scared. He said, "If anyone finds this, they'll know I didn't fall, I was pushed. They wanted the truth buried, but the truth has a sound and it never stays silent." Mara sat motionless, tears in her eyes. She whispered, "Adrian, who pushed you?" But the tape ended there. She looked at the others lined up on the desk like silent witnesses. She played the next one, but before she could press play the power went out. The entire house dark, only the sound of rain and wind outside. She lit a candle. The flame flickered, shadows moved across the walls. She felt it then, a presence behind her. She turned fast, candlelight catching the outline of someone in the doorway, tall, motionless, watching her. She blinked, the figure was gone. She tried to convince herself she was tired, that her mind was playing tricks, but when she looked back at the desk, one of the tapes was missing, the one labeled confession free. She searched everywhere, nothing. Then the phone rang again. She let it ring, this time afraid to answer. When it finally stopped she checked the caller ID. It was blank, no number. At dawn she went to the diner again. The same man from before was there. She asked if anyone else had a key to the house. He shook his head, said only the landlord, but he ain't been around in years. She showed him the photo. He looked at it long, his eyes narrowing, said, "Where did you get this?" She said, "It came through my door yesterday." He stood up, grabbed his jacket, said, "Don't tell anyone else you have this," and left without another word. Back at the house she found muddy footprints on the porch. Someone had been there while she was gone. Inside everything looked untouched except the tapes. They were moved, slightly rearranged. She sat down, pressed record, her voice steady but cold. "Whoever you are, I'm not afraid of you," but her hand trembled. When she stopped recording she played it back, and once again the whisper returned. This time it wasn't a single word, it was a sentence. "You should be." She stared at the recorder, her reflection flickering in the small red light. The ocean outside roared louder than before, and in that moment she realized she wasn't alone in that house, and maybe she never had been.
The morning came, gray and heavy, clouds low over the sea. The air felt colder than before. Mara barely slept. She sat by the window listening to the ocean, trying to make sense of what the whisper said. "You should be." She replayed the recording again and again, but each time the words sounded different, deeper, like they were crawling inside her mind. She turned off the recorder, pushed it away, made coffee, her hands shaking. She told herself she would leave today, but something in her wouldn't let her. By noon she packed her bag, but before leaving she noticed something strange under the door, a small envelope, no name, no stamp, just her address. She opened it. Inside was a note written in red ink, "Stop listening." She stood there staring at the note, her throat dry. She looked outside, but no one was there, just empty road and wind moving through the grass. She went back inside, locked the door, and played one of the remaining tapes. The label read "Confession 2." Adrian's voice filled the room, soft and distant. He said, "They told me to destroy the recordings, said the sound wasn't meant to be heard. I tried, but the noise kept coming back like it was alive. I started hearing it in my sleep, the whisper, the same one that brought her here. Maybe it wanted her now." Mara paused the tape, her heart pounding. She whispered, "Who's her?" But there was no answer. She pressed play again. Adrian continued, "They said it started in the studio by the cliffs, the one that burned down in '98. They said the last track I recorded carried something not human. I didn't believe them until it spoke my name." The tape clicked off. Mara looked at the clock. Only a few minutes had passed, but it felt longer. She couldn't stop shaking. She knew she had to find that studio. She grabbed her keys, drove through the rain until the road turned narrow and broken. Near the sea, the burned remains of a building stood alone. Surrounded by wet grass, the sign half gone, still red crescent sound. She stepped inside, the air thick with smoke smell. Even after all these years, ashes on the floor, old wires hanging from the ceiling, and in the center of the room, a microphone, still standing, its surface blackened. She touched it, cold metal. She whispered, "Adrian," and the echo came back. But it wasn't her own voice, it was a man's, deep, rough, and close enough to make her flinch. She stumbled back, dropped the flashlight. It rolled across the floor and stopped at a corner where something gleamed. She crouched. There was another metal box. She opened it and found not tapes, but film reels wrapped in paper, the top one labeled experiment. She took them home that night, rain still falling hard. She borrowed an old projector from the library and set it up in the living room. She threaded the reel, switched off the lights. The film flickered to life, black and white footage of a man sitting in front of a microphone, wires connected to his head, his eyes closed. A doctor behind him speaking to someone off camera, saying, "We're recording the dream sequence now." The man opened his mouth, started whispering words that made no sense. The doctor nodded, then suddenly the film cut to static, but the sound kept playing, whispers layered on whispers until it sounded like screaming. The projector went dark, power gone again. She sat in the dark, heart pounding. She grabbed the flashlight, turned it on, and froze, because there on the wall, written in large shaky letters, were the same words from the note, "Stop listening." She dropped the light, it rolled across the floor, the beam catching something under the table, her missing tape, the one labeled Confession 3. She picked it up slowly, the tape warmed to the touch like it had been playing by itself. She put it in the recorder, pressed play. Adrian's voice this time sounded desperate. "If you hear this, it means she's awake. She doesn't like silence. She feeds on the sound. You can't stop her. You can only keep recording." The tape clicked and ended there. Mara sat in the dark, breathing fast, the ocean outside still roaring. She whispered, "What are you?" And the recorder answered with a faint whisper, this time a woman's voice, calm and close. "You already know." She screamed through the recorder against the wall. It shattered, but the red record light stayed on, blinking. She backed away into the hallway where she saw the reflection of someone standing in the glass door. Not her, not Adrian, but a woman with long dark hair staring straight at her, lips moving silently. The house felt alive, wires humming, walls vibrating like they were full of voices. She covered her ears, but the whispers didn't stop. They were inside her now. By dawn, the house was quiet again, the red light finally off. Mara sat on the floor, staring at the broken recorder. She picked up the last tape on the table, its label, almost unreadable, Confession 4. She didn't want to play it, but she knew she would, because the whisper was right beside her now, waiting.